Ladies and gentlemen, we are the three philosophers. We're here to talk about everything. We're here to talk about nothing. We're here, hopefully, to talk about something that interests you, excites you, makes you question your very existence. Let's do this. What's up, brother?
Oh, hi there.
It's been a second.
Has it? It's been a while.
It's been
3 weeks exactly.
It's been 3 weeks?
It's been 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I guess by popular demand, we had a request to do this particular podcast.
Yeah, because that last one is kind of fucked up.
Oh, the
ayahuasca DMT one?
So that was like episode, what, number 8 or something?
8.
Yeah. So for you peeps out there, and I guess for whoever requested this on our YouTube channel, we did a podcast, one of our first. We're on, what number is this?
This would be 35.
So we're on 35 podcasts for those of you who are just now joining us or don't know anything about us. So this is podcast 35. Back on podcast number 8, which seems to be our most popular one, Brett and I talked about DMT and ayahuasca. And so kind of what that experience is about. So what we thought we'd do is kind of revisit that topic and talk about that experience.
Yeah, go a little more in depth in it because your whole experience got interrupted with DMT.
Oh, yeah.
So
And I don't think I finished everything anyway.
No, the whole thing got cut off at the end when you were explaining who you went through and how you got there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's begin. Let's talk about, this has been, God, I guess it's been going on 3 years now. I guess it'll be 3 years in December. So around this time then, I was checking out the JRE podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, and, kind of following that along. And a couple people, Graham Hancock and Dan Hardy, one of the UFC fighters, talked about ayahuasca, and I didn't know anything about ayahuasca. And at that time, I think I just started back in college and was looking into archaeology as a degree, and had my first anthropology class. And got really excited just about foreign cultures. And I've always been a history buff and that kind of stuff. So kind of two perfect things met. They started talking about ayahuasca. I started looking into it. And most of the sessions that people were going to do ayahuasca were in Peru. And on my bucket list was Machu Picchu,
Oh, yeah.
And so I wanted to see the ruins and the historic Inca site at Machu Picchu. Anyway, and it turns out this is where this ayahuasca stuff was.
Yeah, kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah. And so I'd had experience like as a teen, like everyone does with, the world, no one loves me, no one understands, no one, I'm an alien on this planet. What's the meaning of life? And so I'd gone through all the teenage angst and, without getting too personal, but getting personal is, there was alcoholism in my family, and my mom went to see a counselor, and I got drug into those sessions as, 12, 13, 14-year-old, and made the mistake of being honest with the counselor, and next thing you know, I'm in a 30-day program locked up.
You got Baker active?
Yeah, with, we had good insurance, and, this was, late 80s, early 90s in that era. And this was kind of pre-Ritalin.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And everyone was bipolar or manic depressive. And I think Prozac was the hot thing, and they were assigning everyone, here, take Prozac.
Oh, yeah. They were dumping out all the prescriptions just to get those lunches and free cruises and shit.
So it was that era. And of course, I got diagnosed with clinical depression, and I was on Prozac and a bunch of other things. And the thing that they, like, if you hear prisoners talk about going to jail, if you're a relatively good person and innocent, and you end up in jail, what you learn is a degree on how to be a bad person, right? You learn how to be a criminal.
Yeah.
And the same is true in the mental health industry. If you're relatively naive and innocent and, whatever, and you get exposed to groups, counseling sessions, and especially if you're locked up for 30 days in a depression house, you're going to learn thought processes. You're going to learn how to be depressed if you weren't already.
Oh, yeah.
And so some of that is probably what I experienced. But anyway, long story short is I had suffered with depression off and on pretty much my whole life. So fast forward into my career. Now I'm an adult. I've got the big corporate job. I'm making all this money. And I just hit a wall, with 120 hours a week. And my home was in Pensacola, Florida. My job was in Los Angeles, California. And, the separation of the family that I didn't think would affect me affected me.
Started
the
hitting
hours.
The home.
Yeah, so it was a perfect storm. I hit the wall and crashed. And that's when I started having anxiety and panic attacks. I thought it was bullshit. I thought you're a wussy. What panic attack?
Just keep pushing, keep working.
Yeah. I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I couldn't catch my breath. I couldn't sleep. Our society, all they want to do is plug you full of medications. I didn't want to be medicated. So when I ran across the podcast and they started talking about ayahuasca, one of the things that they were using ayahuasca for was to treat addictions and mental illness. And so for those of you who don't know what ayahuasca is actually two things. It's a brew made by indigenous peoples in South America and Central America for no one knows for sure, but there's evidence at least 2,000 years ago. But
they just took one thing and we're just like, this goes together.
Well, that's the weird thing.
How do they know that those?
There's hundreds of thousands of plant species,
and just those two,
and how they complement each other is your body has a natural enzyme in your gut that protects you from basically tripping off of DMT.
Yeah, so you don't get high off of eating a salad.
Yeah. Dimethyltryptamine.
Yeah.
And so one of these plants is high in DMT. The ayahuasca is actually a vine. They call it the vine of death or the vine of souls. And that counteracts the stomach enzymes that would break down the DMT.
Yeah.
So the ayahuasca
your body can
vine,
receive it.
Actually helps you intake that DMT. But the weird thing is you have to boil it for a certain amount of time and you have to use a certain amount of each. It's really some complex chemistry performed by people who didn't have the wheel.
Yeah. And by taking it that way, instead of how people normally do it is smoke it, you're tripping for hours
way longer
versus
smoked DMT
2 minutes
and clinical DMT that's either smoked or even intravenous like the Spirit Molecule book.
Like the bloodstream injecting into your blood.
Yeah, they did needles.
Yeah, it's breaking down in your liver versus your bloodstream or your lungs.
Yeah, both of those are 5 minutes max. 10 minutes. Ayahuasca is 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah,
and so anyway, I did the research. I looked around. Most people go into the jungle, but there's a lot of sketchy stuff happening. There's a lot of they call them ayahuasqueros, which are the shamans that do the ceremony, and a lot of them are first of all they're white. They're people from the U.S. that go down there and start up clinics. And
it's like
ayahuasca.
People doing the medical marijuana thing here.
Yeah,
you got Indian doctors coming from overseas just to make money.
It's a big tourist boom. So
you're in Peru,
and it's in the jungle. So I looked around and I stumbled across a place called Etnicus in Peru, which is in the Sacred Valley of Peru, which is around Cusco. So it's not too far from Machu Picchu. So it's up in the Andes. It's up in
how'd you find it? Did you just Google?
Yeah, I went online and started looking around, and I narrowed it down to a couple different places. All happen to be in the Sacred Valley. So none of the places that I liked that spoke to me
It's just something just attracted you to that website.
Well, specifically, they had pictures of the Dalai Lama. So the Dalai Lama had actually visited this place.
So that's okay. So that gave you the reassurance. Just like, I'm going there.
This is legit.
This is
and the other piece to that is they were doing studies with the Peruvian Ministry of Health.
Yeah.
So they had Western style clinical doctors and nurses that you had to kind of go through to be accepted to the program.
Yeah, so you had multiple backings of you're not going to get fucked and screwed.
Because I mean, I'm going there by myself. I don't speak Spanish.
No. I mean, obviously.
So I hop a plane and I'm going to end up in Peru, in a third world country, not knowing anything about anything. And
you're flying blind.
I'm going to do a bunch of drugs, and
you don't want to wake up in the ice bath.
Yeah,
with
missing a kidney. Yeah. So anyway, I booked the trip, and you're supposed to do a diet, and the diet is, no processed foods, no canned foods, no meat.
So how did that go?
No alcohol.
How did it go from going from somebody who eats very heartily to pretty much fasting?
I mean, it was tough, but and a lot
you can't have sex either.
No, you're not even supposed to masturbate, dude. It's that energy.
And what's the length you have to go through?
A month.
A month.
Yeah, prior to taking the ayahuasca.
So, did you have any temptations? I'm not temptations.
Yeah,
did you cheat?
No,
you didn't cheat.
No. I and that's
you were dedicated.
Well, what they tell you. And you can watch, 7,000 YouTube videos. And I did all the research on that too and watched all the videos before I did it.
Yeah.
They say Mother Ayahuasca, and they talk about this energy, Mother Ayahuasca,
yeah.
Pachamama, Mother Earth, calls you. Yeah. So when you're ready, you're going to get the call. And so how they explain that is...
You have to be pure?
Well, no. I mean, a lot of times people are fucked up, and that's why they're doing it.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, but pure meaning you didn't eat any meat. Well, oh, no, it's more of a...
Some people don't do that.
Oh, really?
But in my case, something clicked. I said, I'm going to do this. I did the research.
You're going to do it. You're going to do it right.
I'm going to do it right. Okay. I'm not going to half-ass this,
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so I ended up driving from Pensacola, Florida, in the Panhandle down to Miami, hopped on a plane, flew to like Colombia, had a connection in Ecuador, flew to Lima, Peru, flew from Lima, Peru to Cusco, which is 12,000 plus feet above sea level. We're at 0. So that was difficult. And
did you get altitude sickness?
Oh, fuck yeah.
How was that?
Sucked. I mean, you get, it's like a hangover. You get a splitting, throbbing headache that nothing fixes. I mean, no amount of aspirin, Tylenol, nothing fixes it. And so you can't sleep. You can't breathe. You walk from,
because the air's so thin.
You walk 10 feet, you're out of breath.
Yeah.
And so I suffered through that the first day. But again, I planned this. So I went a couple days early.
Oh, okay.
So I went and hung out in Cusco, got acclimated, chilled out, and then went to the ayahuasca people, the clinic, whatever you want to call it,
you got checked
retreat.
Out. Yeah.
They have a hostel in Cusco, and you go there, you meet with a nurse, you fill out another questionnaire. So this would have been the third questionnaire.
When you go there, do you do like a physical?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then you have to drink, they try to get you to drink 21 glasses of this special volcanic water that tastes, smells, and looks like ass. That's effervescent. So it's naturally carbonated from the bowels of the earth.
Yeah. You're drinking spring water that smells like shit.
It's unreal.
So you're pretty much, the people from Florida, you're drinking well water. That sprinkler well water that's carbonated.
Nasty. And what that does is clean your poop chute.
Oof.
And so I did that.
Like a colonoscopy cleans you out?
Oh, yeah.
Like you're shitting out stuff from
water. Yeah, by the time you get to 21 glasses, nothing is water.
You're a water fountain.
So you've gone a month without processed foods, caffeine, nicotine, and now you're clean as a whistle.
Wow.
So the next day you meet in the park and I happened to stumble into two dudes, and we're all kind of walking around this park in Cusco, Peru, and two Caucasians I run into, and one was from Utah, a Reiki master, and the other guy was a crazy hoot from Canada that had backpacked all across Europe, that was in his late 30s, that had off and on addiction problems, and he was just a wild man. And so we talked, and we're like, hey, are you doing are you, and so we connected before we met with the people and hung out and got to know each other. Well, those ended up being my bunk mates.
Oh, no shit.
So we hopped on this, a little van, and off we go into the Andes in no man's land, Peru. I mean, crazy.
You're middle of nowhere type
ravines, shit. Up and down these mountain passes, 4,000 feet drops. And we end up in this little dinky town of like 300 people.
Oh, okay.
With a church and this retreat, this gated, walled little retreat. And that's where we did the ceremonies. And there was a shaman, an assistant shaman, and like 4 or 5 handlers that support the ceremony.
The little retreat, was it just like buildings?
Yeah, I mean it was
like a normal area.
Yeah, it was basically there was a little 2-story, like almost a duplex style house.
Oh, okay.
And there were 3 floors to it, and each floor held 3 beds.
Oh, okay.
And a bath.
Okay.
And you males went one way, females went another way. You had 3 to a room, and you get there, and you're supposed to practice what's called the noble silence. So you're supposed to, reflect, contemplate, and basically get your shit straight, get your head straight before you're about to
prepare yourself for a trip of your lifetime, pretty much.
At this time, I don't know this is going to be the ass kicking of my life, so I don't understand the seriousness or the importance of, getting your shit straight.
No,
because I mean, looking back, I mean, this is one of the most courageous things someone can do. I mean, literally. I mean, yeah, there's courageous as far as jumping out of an airplane or doing something physical.
This is mental.
This is mental and spiritual
to a whole nother degree.
Yeah, I mean, this is the scariest roller coaster you've ever ridden on, and you can't get off of it for 6 hours.
Shit.
Only it's with your psyche.
Yeah.
It's insane.
You're locked inside whatever for 6 hours.
So, and you don't know if it's ever going to stop, and you've got no concept of time.
Yeah.
So what feels like an hour or what
30 days.
Yeah, what's an hour to you feels like a year.
Yeah.
You don't know. You have no concept. Yeah. So it makes the journey.
That's 6 hours is a lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, completely.
Okay.
And so we get there and check into our rooms, and we do several ceremonies. And what was cool is one of the shaman that came to visit to kind of prep us wasn't the ayahuasquero. So she didn't perform the ayahuasca ceremony, but she was legit Incan. She didn't even speak Spanish. She spoke Quechua, which is the language of the Incas. And she was from literally from a village that was never discovered by the Spanish. So they never even found. So they had real Inca Indians in the 1600s living on top of this mountain, and no one ever found them. And eventually they started interacting with, at that time, colonized Peru in like the 17, 18, 1900s, way after
the Spanish.
Yeah.
Wow.
And still spoke their native language.
That's
and
amazing.
So she was legit, and we did a ceremony to Pachamama, pray to Mother Earth, and of course I don't understand what's going on, and then you rest. And so we got there around noonish. We did the ceremony 2-3ish. It lasted about an hour, and you're fasting, so no dinner, no nothing, and the ceremony started at 9:00 that night. Yeah. And so they allow 10 people. You're allowed 10 people when you go into like a big living room, and they have these little pads set up that are, probably the size of this table. They're little sleeping pads, little cushions.
Oh, yeah. Like the little kindergartner mat things. Yeah. Like yoga mat things.
With a pillow and like 3 or 4 blankets, big heavy wool blankets.
Oh, okay.
And a bucket next to each pallet. And you're supposed to bring a liter of water per ceremony and a roll of toilet paper per ceremony. And so what was interesting is, again, they take 10 people at a time. Most people sign up for 1 to 2 sessions. When I was there, almost everyone did 1 session. So they did 1 session. The next day they left.
Yeah.
I did a 7-day package, which included 3 sessions of ayahuasca over 5 days, and then 2 days to go to Machu Picchu and come back.
Okay.
So all of that was one package.
Yeah.
So Jason, dumbass here, had never done ayahuasca, never really taken a heroic dose of anything. So I haven't, I mean,
At this point, have you ever done DMT?
No, I'd never done DMT. I'd never done a heroic dose of acid.
Okay.
You know, I'd take 1 hit or whatever,
Have you
go
took
to
shrooms?
a concert.
I'm sure you took mushrooms before.
Shrooms, but not a heroic dose.
Oh, okay.
You know, a little bit of shrooms. Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah.
So I had some experience with psychedelics and hallucinogens.
But not enough to,
not
to
like
comprehend
this.
what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we you know, we're sitting around chilling out with my roommates, and they come and get us, and it's like, okay. And you come down, and there were people from all ages. There were business people from Europe. There was a young, like, soccer-looking dude.
So where was your mindset at when you were walking to go do this? Because you don't know what you're expecting.
Honestly, I thought it would be like an LSD trip. So, like, the first time I had ever done LSD was around Christmas time, and I was like 18.
Yeah, so you're not expecting something super.
No, not. I'm expecting,
out of body.
You know, some visuals.
Yeah.
You know, I'm expecting to, you know,
You're not
laugh
expecting to black out.
uncontrollably.
Yeah.
You know, giggle. You know, I expect the walls to breathe.
Yeah, so you're not really that nervous. You're pretty going in there like, I'm going to rule this shit, and this is going to be fun.
Basically.
Okay.
You know, but I had heard how intense it was.
Yeah.
So half of me had in the back of my head, this is supposed to be tough stuff. And people did talk about, you know, throwing up and shitting themselves and stuff like that in the other videos I had watched.
Yeah.
And so, but
You were thinking more that they were
all
just
of
getting
you
sick.
people that are watching this think you're, and I'm going to try to describe this the best I possibly can, but I know it's going to pale. There's no way to describe.
No, you
this.
can't describe it.
There's no way.
Because every experience is individual to the person, isn't it?
There's that, but it's also
It's not something you can
intense
describe.
beyond words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we go in, and like I said, there's people from literally all over the globe. There were people from Australia. There were people from UK. There was one dude from Africa. There was someone from Jamaica. There was my roommate from Canada and the other guy from Utah. And so there was people literally teeny bopper,
Very diverse
kind of hipster,
Yeah.
you know, hippie types. And then there were legit business people.
Yeah.
So there was all ages, all walks of life, and not what you would consider, you know, drug users or
Just
partiers.
normal, average day, 9 to 5 folks. Okay.
Yeah. And so we all sit down, and they basically tell us, hey, here's what's going to go down. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped a part. We also met with the ayahuasquero, the person that's going to give us the drink individually that day. So everyone met one-on-one and kind of had a chat through an interpreter, obviously.
Okay.
And what that session was about was the ayahuasquero is trying to get a feel for who you are and kind of how much dosage he's going to give you.
Pretty much give you the rundown.
Yeah, and so they had everyone listed, you know, on a sheet of paper, and they had like almost like a little altar up front. And in the at the altar, they had these various, I don't know, call them potions. There were smell good stuffs in jars, you know, and it was kind of, but they had sage, and they had, you know, things like that to kind of, you know, cleanse and clear the energy and stuff like that. So they had an altar full of stuff that shamans have, and the shaman sat there, and they had the ayahuasca there. And the handlers came around, and they gave you a bowl, and the bowl had dirt in it, and they had a little bit of water, and you make a little bit of mud, and you put it on your forehead, and you put it on your chest, and they do a ceremony, and they went around the room and did that. And then they started, they dimmed the lights and started pouring the brew. And literally we had a little plastic 8-ounce cup and they started pouring it for everyone, calling everyone up.
So what did it look like? Like, what was the smell like? Did it have shit in it?
No, I mean, it's
just like tea.
It's as thick as a peanut butter and banana milkshake.
Oh.
But it's gritty and sandy like you're drinking coffee grounds. And it's earthy and rooty and licoricey. So it tastes like a dirt milkshake.
Like you're drinking Jägermeister, Jaeger milkshake with sand.
Coffee grounds and sand and yeah.
That sounds foul.
It's the most disgusting thing. But here's, I described it that way, but literally, if you had done ayahuasca, I would say it tastes like ayahuasca because it has a unique, pungent.
Like if you were to smell it,
I would know today.
You would be like,
if you had some in this room right now,
you could point it out.
Yeah,
it's just that unique.
Even if I didn't know, I would. It would bring back a memory if I smelled it. I'd be like, ooh, shit.
Just kind of like when you think of gasoline, you start to smell gasoline. Like that smell is that distinct.
Yes,
okay. We're getting somewhere.
And so so they hand it around and we all wait and everyone has their cup and they filled mine up. I had about an 8-ounce cup, 8 to 10 ounce. And you sit there solemnly, and some people are like, almost meditating. About half of these people had done this before.
Oh, okay.
And then the other half of us,
first time. Yeah.
And so they tell you to clear your head and have intent. You're supposed to have intention. Like, why am I drinking this? So you're supposed to basically pray.
What are you trying to improve of yourself?
Yeah.
What am I trying to seek?
And they tell you, pray to your God. So if you're Hindu, pray to Krishna. If Ganesh. If you're Buddhist.
That's very open-minded to other people's beliefs. That's
they're 100%. Yeah, they're like pray to what makes you feel safe.
Yeah.
And ask your God, Jesus, whoever.
Because this stuff is so intense. You're telling people to seek out their comfortability.
Yeah.
What's going to make them feel good because they're about to go on a roller coaster ride.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that makes sense.
And so my to let it out there, my intent. So when I prayed, and let me take a quick tangent, is I went down basically agnostic. I was raised Catholic. I'd been to tons of different churches, mostly Christian, throughout my life, but I wasn't really spiritual.
You weren't religious. You weren't really religious.
I wasn't really religious.
You were like, there's something out there, but maybe. I don't know.
Honestly, I didn't even care. I had the mindset growing up that, I'll figure it out when I die.
You were borderline agnostic atheist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when they asked me to pray,
you're like,
I was just like, well, I mean,
whatever.
I was just like, okay. I mean, I took it serious, but I was like,
you were just looking for something comfortable. You're just praying to whatever out there then.
But my intent was, I just want to know my purpose. Like literally that was my intent. So my prayer was, why am I here? What's the meaning of this and why am I here? Well, and help me be a better person.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then they tell you to drink it. And yeah.
You have to drink the whole thing.
Yeah. And it was so nasty. And I got it stuck in my teeth and it was nasty.
How long did it take the effect to hit?
So they turn off all the lights completely.
Uh-huh.
So then it's jet black. And I'm sitting, everyone's sitting like Indian style on their little mat. Mm-hmm. And within probably 20 to 30 minutes.
For you to start digesting it. For it to start to hit your liver.
The first thing that happened is I started hearing and feeling a humming. So for those of you who haven't been around,
kind of like a microdose of mushrooms or
like literally an industrial high electricity atmosphere.
Oh, like if you're around a power plant.
Yeah. Yeah,
you feel that
exactly.
Electrical hum.
If you're into computers, if you've ever been to a mainframe room with there's shit tons of mainframes.
Yeah, the fans and the electricity.
And there's a you can almost feel static
vibration,
Yeah, that's what it started.
I know
like.
what you're talking about.
And instantly, that's when I knew, oh shit,
You're about to,
because this already felt foreboding. This already felt serious, like more than any LSD or mushrooms.
You're feeling the intensity. You feel that there's something about to.
But yet, I don't feel shit. Yeah, I mean, all I feel is a slight hum, and I hear a zzz.
Now, when you start to realize this is about to be something you've never experienced, what's going through your head at this point?
Nervous. Yeah.
Yeah, you start to get nervous.
You get a little nervous. You're like, oh shit,
what's about to happen?
What's about to happen? And so the sound ramped up and became a noticeable hum, and I felt like
your hair's starting to stand,
like electricity. It felt like the room got hot, and it felt like electric.
Wow.
Like literally like electricity in the air. And so this is where it gets crazy. So my eyes are closed, and so you know how like the documentary specials like Into the Deep Ocean on Discovery Channel or whatever, how all these little clear animals live down there and they talk with the light.
Oh, the little specks. You talking about little specks?
Well, some of them are fish, some of them are worms, but there's like little blue lights and little red lights.
Little micro creatures.
Yeah, and they're like beep, 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 and that's how they talk.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sitting there, I hear the humming, I feel the like electric energy, and I see like blackness, like I'm watching a screen, like a video, like at the movie theater, and I'm waiting for the picture to show up.
Yeah.
And like this net kind of thing appears, like a membrane, but it's hexagonal or octagonal, I don't know, but definitely geometric, like a cast net.
But it's okay. So you're seeing like a net.
But as far as I can see, up, down, side to side, there's this net.
Yeah.
In the distance.
Okay.
Moving towards me. And the filament, it's like a clear, like fishing test, like a real thick filament. And within this filament, there's different colors of pulses, like dots, almost like I'm watching a computer switchboard or but it seems like communication, right? It seems like
something's talking or communicating to you.
Well, not to me. It's just like I'm watching this network of shit happening. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
So this thing's coming towards me, and it's geometric. I can see beyond it, and there's nothing beyond it. It's like just black space beyond it, right?
Yeah.
And there's it looks like communication. There's little light, all different colors, just beep, 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 beep. Almost like I'm watching Morse code. You know what I'm saying? So there's all this weirdness happening.
Almost kind of like a nebula type thing.
Yeah,
like something in space, like how.
But more, it looked like a net. It looked like a cast net that covered all of my vision.
That's interesting.
But within the net filaments, it was like what do you call it? Fiber optics.
Oh, okay.
It looked like a fiber optic net of either hexagon or octagon. I couldn't count the sides, as far as the eye could see in space.
Oh shit!
And within the fiber optics, there were light colors, and it seemed to be communicating.
Okay.
But I was just watching it. Now, I started, the intensity, the humming started getting more, and I saw this figure start floating towards the net. That looked very similar to this, actually, but almost like it was made out of Minecraft. Like whoever wrote it.
Like blocks?
Yeah, like the head was more blockish, but literally it was in robes, and it was sitting just like that. Literally. And it kept getting closer and closer and closer. And I was like looking at this thing going, holy shit, this is intense. Because it looked like I was watching a movie. It didn't look like a dream. It didn't look like a trip. It felt and looked real. And it was like literally like I was at a movie theater watching a documentary. Like it was real. Like I was watching it. And this thing got closer and closer and closer. And when it got up to the net, I heard 1,000,000, 1,000, a bazillion, whatever infinite number of distinctly female voices all around me, echoing in my head, relax, 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 let go, let go, let go, let go. Like relax and let go.
Wow.
Like, and I was just like, because I was timid, obviously. I'm like, what the fuck's about to what is this?
Now, do you think that was in your head, or you think that was the people in the room?
I don't know. I don't know. But this thing leaned forward And when it reached towards the net flexed like it was skin, like a membrane. And it reached forward, and you know what a Muay Thai plum is?
Yeah.
When you do this and grab behind the head and kick someone in the face or knee them.
Keep going.
It grabbed me like behind the head and like a Muay Thai plum reached through the membrane and pulled me like to its chest. And as soon as that happened,
whoa,
gone. And I don't know are we good?
Yeah, you're good.
I don't know the order or the sequence of the next stuff I'm about to say, but it was almost like Ghost of Christmas Past.
Wow.
Where you know how
you're somebody's hanging out with you and they're showing you
the
things.
whole time. And I went to what I can remember about 5 distinct scenarios, places, worlds, dimensions, whatever they were. I never saw who was with me.
Yeah.
But there seemed to be a guide. There seemed to be someone
taking
just out of my
taking you through these paths.
Like, look at this. Look at that. Look at this. Look at that.
Almost like a tour guide.
Kinda.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So one of them, and I don't know if this was the first one, but it literally felt like I saw the beginning of time.
How so?
It seemed like I showed up like watching a NASA documentary, and I was in space and there was literally nothing. There were no stars. There was literally nothing. And then at once there was everything. And I got this weird feeling of almost melancholy, almost sadness. Like, you've seen the picture of Atlas. You know, the Greeks had Atlas, and Atlas is leaning down, holding the world. Yeah. It was like that. It's almost like I saw Atlas. Whoever created all of this.
So you felt sympathy?
Yeah. I was like at the dawn of creation, and the feeling I got is this entity, God, Allah, whoever, created all of this, started this in motion, and now has to devote a certain amount of energy, but can never stop, right? So I've created this. Imagine being a video game creator.
But always creating.
You've written the game. You've started it. But now you're stuck. You can't go away. You can't leave it. You've created all of this. And if you walk away from the monitor, everything dies. And you've got so much invested. But for eternity, you're stuck. That's the feeling that I got.
Wow.
It was intense. And I'm like, what, you know? And then it was like, boom, go somewhere else. And I went to a place, and it was almost like an auditorium type atmosphere, almost like a viewing, like when the old 1800s when they do the surgery in front of everybody.
Oh, and you're
and you're up in the balcony,
and you're
looking down. Yeah, it was this huge kind of auditorium or stadium type thing. But it felt intergalactic. It felt like there were things from all over the universe. I mean, literally, it felt like a George Lucas type. You know, the bar scene in the very first. I mean, there was things from everywhere.
Yeah,
and they were all chanting like, "Yeah, do it, get it." And in the center that everyone was watching was like this Jabba the Hutt, bulbous, crazy figure that was regurgitating just, you know, so hard that bones in its face were popping and cracking and teeth were busting open. And it was literally almost like killing itself. And it was almost like a performance, like it was doing it the best it possibly could for all these things, these people, these entities, and they were cheering it on like, oh man, that's so good. And they were like getting off on it. And it was like, I was so horrified. Like what? I couldn't even like look at it or feel or hear it because I could hear shit. I could hear the pain. I could hear it. Like even if I'm not looking, I hear it and feel it. And I'm like, oh my. And the intensity was beyond like, it was literally, pardon the pun, otherworldly. And I was like, what the fuck, you know? And the takeaway I got from that is some of these dimensions or worlds are infinitely older than our own. Mm-hmm. And they are so bored to the point of they're just like they've lost their mind. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're if you imagine living forever, just imagine that. Imagine living.
I'd get bored.
1,000 years, 10,000, 100,000, 1,000,000 years. I mean,
no.
It felt like they'd been around so long it became perverted. Like it's a perversion.
Everything is erotic now.
Well, not even just sexual, but in this case, it was like pain is ecstasy. It was really weird.
That's odd.
So I didn't know what to think of that. And then, this is the weird one. I showed up, and again, this seemed weird, but it seems like either I'd been chosen to be on a tribe or a team, like a football team, or my soul was born as part of this team, or there was something weird going on. And there's rules, and there's like an intergalactic game that lasts forever, and people are jockeying for positions, almost like political parties, right? Republicans versus Democrats kind of thing, but way more. But forever, and it's your soul or something. And like I said, I don't know if they picked me or I would just happen to be part of this. I don't know that part of it. And I can't pronounce it or say it, but it seemed for some reason to start with a G. I don't know why. But as this thing went on, I almost saw like a real quick synopsis, almost like they do before, like, let's say NFL. This is how this team got here. This is how this team got here.
Yeah.
You know, they do a 15-minute rundown of all the games that they played to get to this point, and that's why they're here. So something like that went on that I didn't even comprehend. It was just, beep, 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 beep. You know, it was like all this shit happened, and here we are. And I was just like, you know, equilibrium, you know. The first two places, the beginning of time with Atlas and God or whatever, and the bulbous thing, no one seemed to notice me. Like I was just a fly on the wall. You were just
invisible to them.
Basically, is what it felt like. This time, they knew I was there. And there was what seemed to be a masculine figure and a group of people, and seemed to be a feminine figure. And they were black, obsidian black, like shiny black pearl.
Yeah.
Not African American black. They weren't made of skin. They were made of like glass, kind of, you know, but black. And they were tribal with bones and loincloth. I mean, like what we would consider maybe African, kind of. And it was a very rhythmic, drum-based thing going on. And the male was like a conductor, like he was conducting, and there were people somewhere playing instruments, and the female was dancing. And I was like looking at it, and it was like super intense beyond, like I could feel the music, like I could literally feel it. And the guy looked at me and started like ramping up the tempo, like, ooh, yeah, you know.
He's trying to get you off
basically.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm looking at the female, and, you know, he's like, oh, you know, so he's getting off at me getting off at, you know, but then it's like it went beyond that, because he could figure out that certain notes were doing certain things inside my head. So they started touching notes. And it was almost like brain surgery. It's almost like literally my skull was open, my brain was on a table, and he had rods, and he was poking centers of my brain with notes. And when he did that, he got different responses, pain, pleasure, and he was just bing, bing, bing. So he was
just a
playing
science
me
experiment.
like I was an instrument.
Ooh.
But my brain wasn't open or anything like that. But that's what
the music felt like.
That's what it felt like. Yeah, it was so intense. It was like at the dentist office, but with music. And it was just intensity beyond me being able to even, like, almost to drive you insane. It was so intense. I mean, it was intensity beyond the feeling as pleasure or pain or fear. Like, I don't even know what kind of feeling that is. It was intense.
Not describable.
I can't even.
Just beyond.
Yeah. And so, somewhere during all of this, I came to, and I was on all fours throwing up over a bucket, and one of the handlers was rubbing my back, and my eyes were teary, and I couldn't see. It was all blurry, and I kind of glanced around the room for a second, and I could see these things dancing, like superimposed on top of the room, or it was almost
you're like split between two worlds.
Yeah, I could see like the room and these at the same time, and I couldn't tell what was what, and I was just throwing my guts, what it felt like throwing my guts out. But the difference between these chunks that I blew and normal chunks that I would normally blow is it didn't seem painful, if that makes any sense. Like, I've thrown up and it always sucks and it hurts.
Got the acid in your throat.
Yeah.
It feels like your bowels.
Like your ribs hurt.
Yeah.
But this came from like my soul, dude. I was throwing up shit from like down in my pelvis,
It's like you're throwing up all the bad stuff in your
Yeah. And it felt like
body.
It felt like cartoonish. It felt like waves of projectile vomit. And it felt like I did it forever. And, but I remember someone, drink, and this was really weird because the handler kept leaning forward and I was seeing them in all these weird dimensions. And she was like, Jason, you must drink water. Drink water, plenty of water. And it was just, I was like, stop talking to me. Cause I couldn't even, and I was getting irritated because I was just like, but I couldn't say anything. And I remember drinking the water and it just like running down my chest. Like I couldn't drink anymore. It felt like I'd drunk 6 gallons. And I don't know if she kept filling my water up or what, but I was drinking as much as I could. And the more I drank, the more I threw up. And the more I threw up, the more I tripped and the harder it got.
Ooh.
And eventually I remember laying on my side and them tucking me, covering me with
the wool blanket.
And then I remember, and this was one of the craziest ones, maybe the last one I remember. But I remember they call them crystal skulls or sugar skulls.
Sugar skulls.
I saw what I think was the Aztec god that the Aztecs worshipped, is what it felt. It felt Aztec. It didn't feel Inca, it didn't feel Mayan. It could have been Mayan, but it definitely wasn't like Asian or African or, it felt Aztec-y. And I was almost like almost like a church type environment. And there were priests of some sort chanting, and there was a distinct music like.
Was it cult like, or was it just like you were in a church?
Well, it was, and now that I hear it, it was the Icaros. The shaman sing Icaros. This particular shaman just whistled. They didn't sing anything. But if you go into YouTube and type in Icaros, Icaros, you're going to hear these things that all of them sing. It was that tune, but it was like it was synthesized. It felt like new age synthesizers. It was that same exact tune that he had been whistling. Some
space age,
but it was
tribal
intense,
music.
It was very rhythmic. And the colors were beyond belief. So vivid, neon, crazy ass colors. And it was like kaleidoscopy. And then down like this tube, this hall, this cathedral, whatever it was that skull figure. And in its eyes were like kaleidoscopes. And so I would show up I would look, and you can't not look into his eyes. So I would look into his eyes, and I would just melt, and I could feel my body. I could hear my body go, oh, and I felt like I melted like a candle, like Indiana Jones when he sees I felt like that. You know, when those guys go, oh, it's beautiful, and they melt.
Just melt.
That's what I felt I kept doing. And I did it, and then I would pop back up. And there I am.
Repeating process.
There he is. And I kept doing this over and over and over again. And next thing you know, I was laying on my side. The lights were on. Everyone had gotten off their pads. About half the room was already empty. People had picked up their blankets and gone to their rooms. And I was, laying on my side, and both my roommates were trying to lift me up. And one of the handlers were like, Jason, it's time to get up. It's time to get up.
So your roommates already come too.
They're completely coherent. They're
done tripping.
Yeah. And I'm still like half in the room, half in another world. And now this part of the trip felt like a hardcore dose of mushrooms. I had settled down to what a normal person thinks is the worst mushroom trip they've ever had. Yeesh. So I had gone 100 times beyond that. And now I've come down, I've sobered up to a point where it's probably the most intense mushroom trip you've ever had.
Wow.
And they're lifting me up, and one's got my arm this way and one's got my arm this way, and they're lifting me up. And I remember them saying, you got to help us. You're heavy. You got to help us. And I was on the second floor of the place.
Oh, shit.
And so they lift me up, and I'm like looking around, and I remember looking down and looking at like my left leg and thinking left leg, and my right leg would move. And I was like, that's odd. And I would look at my right leg and think, okay,
does not
move.
compute.
And my left leg would. It's literally like I was learning how to drive this meat puppet all over again.
Wow.
I could not operate this body. And they put me upstairs. They tucked me in my bed. And Paco, the assistant shaman, came to me and was like, it's going to be okay. He gave me some more water, and they tucked me in, put more blankets on me, and put an electric heater from somewhere and put it on me because I was like just freezing my ass off. And I'm laying in the room.
You're freezing, and it's in the middle of the summer.
He comes. Well, it was December, but yeah, that's their summer. Yeah, you're right. Yep,
you were in summertime.
Do you ever seen the like National Geographic where the shaman, the natives, take and blow crap up people's noses?
I think so. Yeah.
And it's some kind of snuff hallucinogen
like
thing.
A little powdery shit.
Yeah. So the assistant came and gave that to both of my roommates. So they had done their ayahuasca trip, come back from the ayahuasca trip, were okay. And he's like, hey, do you want to try this as well? And I watched that, and I was like, whoa. And meanwhile, I was thinking what I'd went through. I thought I saw demons. I grew up Catholic. Anything you don't understand must be evil. And I was scared fucking shitless. I was afraid to close my eyes. I didn't want to trip anymore. And I was still tripping. I was still buzzing. I still felt the electricity. The next morning when the sun came up, I was still buzzing. I was still humming. I couldn't get out of my bed. They got me up, and we went downstairs to eat breakfast. They're like, dude, you got to eat something. I'm trying to eat a little porridge, trying to eat a little fruit. And I was just like, I literally felt like I got beat up by Mike Tyson.
Damn.
I felt sore, lethargic, like the worst hangover. I felt like bad. The funny thing is, when we went down there to eat breakfast, I went back to because the breakfast area was right next door to literally
to where you guys did the ayahuasca.
Yeah. And there was no door. There's just an opening. So here's where we eat breakfast. There's where we did. And I walked in there. There was my pallet. Yeah. I left my toilet paper there. My bucket was there. There's like this much puke in it.
What?
So what I thought felt like, 6 gallons was like...
You only took a sip of water.
10 ounces.
Shit.
So I took that, cleaned that up in the bathroom, picked up my toilet paper, got my water, went back to my room, laid down all day, and was trying to talk to people. And this was the only frustrating part for me, is I was like, dude, what did you see? And no one would really talk about their experience. Like, no one was as candid as I am with you right now. Of course, at that time, I couldn't have articulated this. Just me putting this together, I wrote in my journal while I was still in the Peru, and a couple other times, and formulated this. And I don't know, like I said, the sequence or what else happened. This is the best I can recall. But the next day, I was literally my brain was like scrambled eggs. So I don't know. I couldn't have told you this if you would have asked me these things.
You were just
I don't know.
Something happened. People were there.
But that next day, everyone goes a one-on-one with the shaman again, and then we all do group. And so when we sat down at group, 2 or 3 of the 10 had no visions. I mean, they saw, like an acid trip. They saw colors, a little bit of visuals, and that's it. Now, they drank the same amount. A couple of the people said it was just beautiful, that they felt at peace. They figured some stuff out about themselves. Now they understand how to get the promotion at work, and now they understand how to get along better with their spouse. And I mean, I was like, how'd you figure that out? I mean, I just didn't even understand it. And then a couple of them, like one intense one was a girl that had been molested, and said that she saw herself at the age of her molestation walk to her in her vision and hug her and tell her it's okay, it's not your fault.
Wow.
And she just bawled like a baby.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, so everyone else had relatively good trips. I mean, some were intense, obviously, but no one seemed to get the ass kicking I did.
Then you probably had a lot of inner demons.
Maybe.
It sounds like it.
But none of that made sense to me. Like, I don't know what to I mean, did I see the beginning of time? I don't know. What were the skull things? I don't know.
Well, if you kind of look at what you're saying, she was, she'd been molested, and you wanted to go see why you were here. Maybe that's
but
what
I still can't tell you. I don't know why I'm here, even after this ass kicking.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, nobody can really hold that answer.
Maybe.
I mean, he showed you why you were here, but maybe it was just like, it Men in Blacked your ass. Boop.
Well, it's funny you should say that. It's really crazy you should say that. Is the feeling, because this was only night 1. This was my first night. All of that happened in one session.
Jesus.
At the end of the experience, at the end of all of this, the takeaway was that I don't think you can live in this dimension or be alive with the truth.
With that power.
Which kind of makes me question, and this is going to sound like I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth or I'm being contradictory to myself, is on one hand, I came away from the experience way more religious and way more spiritual than I'd ever been in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm way more open to those beliefs. But at the same time, I realize that no one has the answer, because I don't think you can know the answer and live here. I think literally if you were to, I got it, poof, I think you would like spontaneous. Maybe that's what spontaneous combustion is.
That makes sense.
I think there's rules.
Yeah.
And I think the rule of the game is you can't know and be here.
Exactly. You can't have that power and hold it here.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Then you would be God.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Or you'd be cheating the game.
Yeah.
It'd be a cheat.
You're supposed to go through life trying to pursue the meaning.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be middle-aged and I know why I'm here.
Right. I know. Well, not only I know why I'm here, but I know why we're all
everybody
here. Yeah, I think it's I don't think you're allowed to. So I question, and I would say that anyone who says they have the answer is a charlatan. No one's gone and come back to talk about. I mean, yeah, there's near-death experience, there's alien abductions, they say
the same thing with near-death experience. It's just an overload of DMT.
Yeah.
So you didn't really die. That's just a heavy trip.
Felt like I died.
Yeah.
It felt like I died and came back, and I'm a way more appreciative person because of it. I can tell you that. But the second night I was supposed to do my second session.
Yeah.
and I refused.
So you didn't do your second session. You skipped and did
Well,
you did two sessions.
Well, no, I ended up doing all three.
You did all three.
But I was supposed to do session 1, 2, and 3 consecutively and then have a 2-day break. Yeah, because I was there for 5 days. So I was supposed to do session 1, 2, 3, and then take a 2-day break, but stay there.
Oh.
But what I did is session 1, skip a day, session 2 and 3. And
okay.
Have a day.
So.
Yeah, so session 2 was on my 3rd day.
Mm-hmm.
The second day, though, I stayed in my room, and when everyone went downstairs, I stayed, and I could hear a guy screaming bloody murder, like hollering and literally it connected to me because the tone of his voice touched my soul. Like, dude, I know where you're at. I know exactly where you're at and what the fuck you're going through. Yeah.
I could meet you
and
there.
It gave me goosebumps. I mean, literally, I'm laying up in my room and I'm like, oh my God, make it stop. Dude, hang in there. You'll get through this, man. Trust me. Just hang tight, brother. Turns out that was a new guy and he had a cocaine habit and he was Brazilian. He was all tatted out, thug, rough character, and he got put through it.
Wow.
And the next day I did go to group with everyone. Even though I wasn't part of the session, I went down and I listened to all the news stories with some of the new people. And
was it similar?
A lot like the first day, only there was one other person that got the shit. But he wouldn't talk about it. He didn't really talk about anything, just that,
Why wouldn't people talk about it? Was it just so personal they didn't want to go through it? Or is it... Because, I mean, aren't you supposed to kind of communicate with everybody? And
a lot of people did. It's just, dude, it's a hugely personal... I mean, I'm still hesitant to talk about this to the world.
Oh, yeah.
But it's personal. And the fear you have is no one will believe you. And, dude, you're just doing a bunch of drugs. And, oh, that's bullshit.
Well, I mean, in that type of atmosphere, you have a bunch of people that just experience the same things. Will experience the same drug use you did. You would think that they would be very open-minded to the people around them.
The real hard sessions... I don't think you know what to say for a couple days. Like, I don't think you're still tell processing. That. Yeah. And you just got the shit rattled. It's almost like, okay, so you remember DC got knocked out by John Jones, right? Oh
my God, that was beautiful.
And Joe Rogan interviewed him.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were bitching. It's like, why'd you interview him?
Oh, interview DC?
Right.
Oh, that was a beautiful interview.
That's kind of like going to group the next day after.
Okay. I got to cry a little bit.
Yeah. If you go real deep. Okay. Now, some of the people are able to articulate because I don't think they go quite as far. And
are those the people that have done it before, or are those the people that just had a good experience?
No rhyme or reason. Okay. Some of the people who have done it before can't talk about it again.
Yeah.
Some of the people have never done port, can't talk about it. There's no
It just depends on the person, I guess.
And it depends on the time. A lot of the people I talked to that had done it before.
Now I'm really curious on since you said time, I wonder, are they doing it, all year round?
Oh, the place?
Yeah. So I wonder if it determines if it would affect your trip if you went in winter or autumn.
That's a good question. I don't know.
I'm very curious on that.
It seems, based on the research I've looked into and the stories that I've heard, is no trip is the same. And I don't think time or really even place has a lot to do with it. It's more of kind of where you're at.
Where your mind is. What you're looking for. Okay.
Because...
that makes more sense. I mean, there could be a weird science behind it. If you went in the winter, you would have more of a...
And see, I was up in the mountains, and...
With the elevation...
There doesn't seem to be a difference between those stories and the people who do it in the jungle. There. Yeah, who are in the Amazon. So it doesn't seem to be rhyme or reason. But the second day, a couple of the people carried over because they had 2-day sessions. And the hipsters that I told you about that were from Australia, the second night, they doubled their dose. They literally gave one dude 2 cups. because the first night he didn't have visions.
Oh.
So they said, okay, and doubled his dose. He still didn't have visions.
Wow.
So he paid all this money and basically had a mushroom trip.
Yeah.
And the way I hear people talk about that is, dude, you can't come down cocky. You got to come down with some respect. You're not dealing. And again, that's where
that makes sense, though.
We talk about drugs versus medicine. And you can argue this point, and that's up for debate. Obviously, the shaman and even the Peruvian Ministry of Health,
but you would think
considers this a medicine.
Like, oh, okay, we use the UFC reference. So, like, you're coming into a fight over, underestimating your opponent,
right?
Like Daniel Cormier.
Yeah,
perfect example.
You get the shit kicked.
Yeah, you're talking shit and bullshit, and then you go into and take that cup of ayahuasca. You'd think it'd kick the fuck out of you, not fuck you.
I think, and that's where it gets back to the spirituality aspect of it. Is it seems,
or maybe you're just not prepared for it. Like,
yeah, you're not ready yet. Mother Ayahuasca, if and I'm not going to argue the point. If this is an entity, and here's another school of thought out there, is literally Mother Ayahuasca is Mother Earth.
Yeah,
and the reason there's such a boom in people hearing about ayahuasca, being curious about ayahuasca, wanting to do ayahuasca, there is a heavy common thread of, I don't know the percentages, but again, Google it or YouTube it. Almost every single person that's ever done ayahuasca over the past, 100 years, that's a Westerner, that's not indigenous, that goes and does ayahuasca, comes back and is concerned about the environment, is more concerned about their diet,
open-minded,
wants to be healthy. Well, not even that. They're anti-pollution. They're anti-nuclear energy. So
they kind of open their eyes and see what they're doing.
They claim Mother Ayahuasca is an entity, that the earth is alive.
Well, I mean,
and the ayahuasca might be the white blood cells.
Oh.
And where the cancer cells. Humans are the cancer cells, right?
That makes sense.
And so she's through
the wind and the rain,
whatever, is trying to get more and more people to do ayahuasca, to say, hey, chill out, quit hurting me. Right? Uncle.
Yeah, okay. That's where you're going with it.
Almost every all the peeps that do it come back. I mean, here's a prime example, back to the UFC analogy, is Dan Hardy. Dan Hardy was a brutal freaking knockout artist in the UFC from the UK.
Yeah.
Tatted out, mohawk, bad mofo. And goes and does ayahuasca.
Comes back a whole new person.
Now he does yoga. Now he's, I think he's vegan. I mean, what happened?
Exactly.
Graham Hancock goes down, does ayahuasca, smokes shit tons of weed, does ayahuasca.
Now he doesn't smoke weed.
Doesn't smoke weed anymore.
Yeah.
Aubrey Marcus did shit tons of ayahuasca, did iboga, did all this plant healing, and now I think I'm done doing the plant medicine stuff. But there's a common denominator, if you look at the statistics, is these plant-based medicines, whether it's psilocybin and magic mushrooms, whether it's THC or CBD in marijuana, whether it's LSD, which originally was synthesized off ergot fungus, wheat fungus, like penicillin, or whether it's ayahuasca or iboga, all of these things have higher success rates in treating clinical depression, addiction of drugs. So it seems counterintuitive, take a drug to get rid of my drug addiction. But a recent Russell Brand podcast calls two scientists in the UK that are actually doing DMT trials, just like Strassman did for the DMT spirit molecule book. They restarted those studies in England, a different group.
Just recently?
Just this year.
Oh, wow.
And they talk about it on Russell Brand's, the Trues podcast for Russell Brand. And they talk about this exact study and the success rates that they're getting with quitting smoking, depression, anxiety. I mean, all these things that pharmacists create in the lab don't hold a candle to what Mother Nature already has.
Yeah, like the synthetic marijuana versus marijuana.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I've taken Maribol.
Yeah.
I've had Maribol.
You've experienced the
which
synthetic
is synthetic.
shit.
It's not shit.
Yeah.
It's not shit.
You can't compare that to the real thing. Yeah. Just like CBD, because CBD is in THC, is the healing properties, which we've discussed here. And that there's a dog that was is a good example because a lot of people like dogs. So there's a dog that had tremors since he was a puppy, and took human CBD, the spray, and no pills worked, no pharmaceutical shit that a veterinarian would prescribe. So the dude was just like, okay, let me check this out. And he got the spray, instant, done.
Well,
no tremors.
That's Charlotte's Web.
Yeah.
You know, the girl in Charlotte's Web was having like 300 plus seizures a day.
Yeah.
And the seizures were rattling her so much, it was messing up
2
her.
drops on the tongue. She's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, say what you will, but do your research, man. Don't listen to the propaganda.
Experience some stuff. Listen to the podcast where people actually talk about ayahuasca and CBD and other plant-based medicines.
I mean, another way to look at it is...
because that's where your Advil and Tylenol bullshit is all derived from plant-based medicine.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm a big proponent of, I believe in the scientific method. I get it. You need reproducible results. You need... But at the same time, I also believe in anecdotal evidence. If you've got millions of people saying the exact same thing, there's got to be something to it.
Exactly.
If you have an open mind, I mean, if 1 million people say something, there's got to be something to it. Now, is it 100% true? Maybe, maybe not.
Let's go back to the ayahuasca. Since we got a basis of what you went through.
The first night.
Yeah, the first night.
I didn't talk about the second night.
Okay, well, let's go. Let's do the second night.
So the second session, which would have been the third night, I went down, and this time I was nervous.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, funny or sad, is they put me...
Are you nervous at this point, or are you scared at
Both.
this point? Both. Okay.
Both. But they had talked to me over 2 days
and influenced you to go do it.
Go ahead. And so I'm like, okay, but there's no way I can do that amount. And so they gave me like a half a cup, and they sat me next to the teacher. You know, I was like the first mat next to the shaman.
So do they think you were just overly sensitive?
And that is, they never really. It's interesting when you talk to the shaman, because I would ask point blank, and even the handlers, I was like, what is wrong with me? Are those demons? Am I possessed? Is there something wrong with me? And they just look at you kind of knowingly and just kind of, it'll be okay. Just chill out. They're at such calm and peace. They've seen this 1,000 times. They've probably seen people like me there 1,000 times. They
probably see right through you.
It does.
They probably already know what's wrong with you.
Maybe.
They're like, you know what? Yeah. Here, this is what you need. Yeah. You need half of this.
So I'm freaking out, asking all these questions.
Your soul is sensitive to this.
And they're just like, just chill out.
Yeah, it's good, man. Let's go.
But
take some more.
So the second session, took half a dose. The net thing and the guy thing didn't come. Just the music, the intensity, and the,
Would you say that it's like music, like holy?
No. This was
rhythmic.
Yeah, it was
music.
It was tribal, but it sounded almost synthesized. It almost sounded like synthesizers.
So more like modern day electronic music
to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. But so when this kicked in and I started seeing, and the crystal skull situation started coming back.
Yeah.
And I started seeing those type visuals. Now, I didn't see that entity, but I saw...
You weren't melting and shit again.
Yeah, I wasn't doing that. And it just seemed like a labyrinth of that same color pattern and angles and geometrics. And I was like in this area, and I started having an anxiety attack. I couldn't breathe.
Ooh.
And I sat up, and I was like, I couldn't breathe.
Still recording.
Go ahead.
And they came... and shook me and rubbed my back and made me drink water, and I threw up, and they're like, it's okay. And while I'm going through this trip, the dancer people, which I thought were the demons, it felt demonic. I mean, it was like, the music was like, it was demonic to me. They literally came back
And so you repeated the same trip with those people.
No. I was I was in the Crystal Skull kind of labyrinth thing and these guys just kind of wandered in.
So they were affiliated
and were like almost like let's dance. You know, they were trying to play the music, like trying to get the groove back like we did the night before. And I don't remember. Obviously,
more sinister.
We weren't speaking English, but it was the gist of it, the feeling of it was kind of like
you were communicating.
Yo, dude, you want to dance? And I was like, no, right now, dude, man, I'm kind of having a problem. You know, I mean, it was kind of there was a dialogue,
a mutual dialogue,
telepathic.
Yeah,
thing
okay, there we go. That's
where they were like, let's do this, and I'm like, I'm kind of tied up right now, and literally, they're like, it's cool. I mean, not literally, but telepathically, it was kind of like, it's cool, dude, just breathe. And literally, I went, panic attack went away. And I was just like, whoa.
That makes sense now.
They literally taught me how to breathe.
Your nervousness carried over into the trip, which was causing you probably a bad trip. So somebody in your trip told you to breathe correctly.
Yeah.
And then your trip became more peaceful. That's very interesting.
And I laid back down, and this time, I'm sorry. I skipped a really graphic, important part.
Okay. The Coliseum?
No. So this time when I took it, I sat up and it started, things started getting crazy, the noise, the sound and everything. I laid down, and when I laid down, it literally felt my soul shot out of my body. Like my soul shot out of my body, went down some crazy tube, but I was like attached to like a cord, like a bungee cord. Yeah, like a tether. But it was like maybe like an umbilical cord, maybe.
Okay.
But when I went out and I started having that anxiety attack and they told me to chill out and I took the breath, I came back to my body and I snapped kind of back into my body. And when I did, I shit myself.
Wow, good job.
Like, all in my pants.
Just flopped out.
In a room full of 10 trippers and another 6 or 8 handlers. But I was still tripping. So I'm like, I guess I'll deal with that when I get back. And off I go to, now the second night, I don't remember a lot. I don't know what I went through. I don't remember. The only visuals I remember was the Crystal Skull kind of.
Do you remember when you came to?
Oh yeah. I remember sitting up and I was like, I needed to go to the bathroom. Oh shit. No, it's all I'm still rattled. It's so weird. I had gone to the bathroom previously while I was
mid-trip.
Yeah, because I remember they got me up because I was like, excuse me, like raising my hand, I got to go to the bathroom. And they walked me and I'm tripping my balls off. They walked me to a bathroom.
So subconsciously, you're doing this.
Well, in real life, I went to the bathroom, took a dump.
So you knew you were.
Yeah, because it was that in this world.
In and out type deal? Okay. So you went to the bathroom, took a dump.
Twice.
Oh, good job.
Because I went to the bathroom, but then the second time I shit myself.
Oh, like a big boy. Okay.
Yeah.
Good job.
So in one night, it made me shit twice.
Wow.
Once in the bathroom and then once
on yourself.
On myself. Uh-huh. And so that time was really weird because when I came to after soiling myself, can't believe I'm saying this in front of the world.
That's okay.
Sorry, Mom.
You're already balls deep now.
Yeah, no going back. All the lights were on again, and I looked around, and there was no one around. And so I got up, and I realized I'm not even in the trip room. I'm in a side room on a pallet with my throw up bucket next to me. And I'm thinking,
they move you?
Yeah. And I had no idea.
Wow.
And so I'm like looking around and I'm like, oh man, I gotta throw up again. So I threw up in the bucket and then I had to shit again and I couldn't figure out how to open the door.
So you shit in the bucket.
I shit in the bucket.
Good job.
I laid back down, tripped some more, got up, figured out how to get out the door, and was wandering around the house. And everyone was asleep or doing whatever. And I'm like trying to open doors, and doors were locked, and I can't figure out how to operate my feet. And I'm stumbling around, and I managed to get outside, and I'm in the yard, and I'm walking down this pathway, and I got my Birkenstocks on, and I couldn't walk, and I tripped and slipped out of my Birkenstock and went tumbling face down like a little hill into like bushes, and got up, and it's 4 a.m. or something.
That just kind of shows you something, though. They just lost an incoherent 6'3" grown-ass man that just had to shit in a bucket and trying to figure out doors and legs again.
So I come back up, and I don't know where my room is because it's a building that's attached.
Yeah.
And I go back into where I came from because I knew how I got out, or I figured out how I got out. So I went back in, and when I came back in, I came in a different door, though.
Oh, okay.
And I came in where the kitchen area was and where the trip area was, and there was a counter. And on the counter was a bottle. And I had cotton mouth so bad, I grabbed the bottle. It's a plastic bottle. I'm thinking it's water. I grab it. I'm trying to figure out how to get to my room. I go back outside, come down the walkway, and there's the stairs, and I'm like, yeah, that's you.
That's you.
The sun's starting to come up, so it's 6 a.m. by now. I don't know, and I go to take a sip of the water, and it's ayahuasca.
Oh,
I grabbed the shaman. They left their ayahuasca, and I was like, oh shit! I mean, instantly I tasted it and I spit it out. I was like, ah! I'm trying to clean my teeth, and I'm like panicking because I do not want to trip no more. No more. I stumble up the stairs, sit the bottle in front of our door to the room, go in the room. My roommates wake up and was like, hey, dude, you make it all right? Because they said I was sleeping like a baby, which is why no one wanted to disturb me. They didn't want to mess me up. They said I was sleeping like a baby.
So that's why they moved you.
And that they left me downstairs. They didn't want to lift me again.
I wouldn't
drag me up to the second floor. Yeah. So I instantly, I'm all embarrassed, and I go into our bathroom, and I strip all my shit down. I'm digging through my thing, waking my two roommates up, digging through it, found fresh underwear. Went to the bathroom. There's no hot water in our whole facility.
Wow.
I'm taking this cold shower, and I've got baby wipes, and I'm cleaning myself up the best I can. I figured out sometime in the middle of the night, I left my soiled underwear in the room that they left me in, and just I had Adidas jogging pants on with no underwear. Took a shower, got all cleaned up, felt 1,000% better, laid down, went to sleep. Woke up, it's breakfast time. Go down, I find the room I was in, found my underwear.
Covered it up.
Then we had to wash clothes, so I had to wash I washed it all in the shower. And so the fourth night, I took my third session, and this time they sat me up front again, and they gave me just a baby dose. And here's what I figured out, and here's maybe a secret to it all. The buzzing started happening. I laid down, and I was petrified I was going to have visions. I did not want to have visions. I curled up in a little fetal ball up under my covers, and I just laid there, and I heard people cry. One of my roommates next to me cried and cried and cried and cried for 5 hours.
Wow.
People were yakking. Almost everyone would horrible heaving, dry heave yakking. The shaman drink a little dose to stay kind of here and kind of there. They kind of see what's going on. They're kind of in between worlds, and that's how they help you.
That's interesting.
I was in, I guess, a shamanic dose. As I'm laying here, I'm trying to keep my eyes closed, and I'm breathing heavy. And I guess I did trip a couple times because I remember them coming on me and blowing this heavy perfume stuff in my face and chanting and waving feathers and stuff on me. And there's something going on, but they were trying to cleanse whatever was happening. And I just closed my eyes and pretended like I didn't know what was going on. But I was coherent. And I remember laying on my side, and I peeked. And when I peeked, I saw these translucent, those colors I saw in the very first session with the net.
Yeah.
I saw translucent figures that were 8 or 9 feet tall, walking around the room like medics, touching people.
Wow.
And some of them seemed to be in charge and had assistants because they would turn and other people would come and they would all, sometimes there'd be 3 or 4 on one person. And sometimes they'd leave, another person would be there by himself and no one would touch them. And these things were moving around the room, leaning, touching, doing stuff.
Yeah.
And I looked for a second and then shut my, because I didn't want them coming to me. I didn't just leave me alone.
You're just afraid.
And then this time when the lights came on, I got up and I'm like, wow, and drank some water. And I was like, okay, I'm good. Went to the room.
Nothing crazy happened.
Nothing crazy.
Wasn't there one part where you had your fucking arms demonically?
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the first night, at one point, my roommate told me that I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
And my roommate told me he didn't tell me the next night, otherwise I wouldn't have done it the second session. I think he might have told me after my third session.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because they did, my roommate actually, both my roommates actually did 3 sessions with me, but they did the 5-day, not the 7-day, so they didn't get the Machu Picchu trip. But they did 5 sessions, so they did, or 5 days, 3 sessions, just like I did.
Okay.
So it must have been that last day. But they started laughing because, by then everyone's been through shit and it's almost, dude, you almost have a camaraderie. Like,
you earned a badge. You guys are like brothers now.
I've never been in the military. I haven't gone to war. I don't pretend to be anywhere near that kind of situation. But you do develop a camaraderie. You went through a shit kicking and now you kind of bond.
Yeah.
And so I think it must have been then that the Reiki master from Utah said, dude, he said, I'm just glad you made it through. He said he looked over that first night and I had my little sweater on and he said that I had both arms tucked in and I was like writhing like a snake with my eyes rolled in my head, speaking some language he'd never heard. And he said all the shamans and assistants were in a ring around me holding hands chanting. And there was a Jamaican girl that night that was supposed to do 2 sessions. She was supposed to come.
You mentioned her before. Yeah.
She didn't come the next night,
because she was petrified by your
She thought like Santeria or voodoo or something, I was possessed or something. But he said literally he could feel the energy while he was tripping. And kind of looked over and saw it and was like, whoa. But some shit went down that first night for sure. But
so, okay. Now, you experienced those 3 doses.
Yeah.
You came back to Miami.
This is where it gets crazy.
Okay.
So, a couple things. So, I went to, after the 3 sessions, which was 4 days, I stayed another day at the place. Mm-hmm. We went back to Cusco. I got a train and went to Machu Picchu. So I spent the night at the base of Machu Picchu. The next day, took a bus and went up to Machu Picchu. And dude, I cried like a baby. Like there's something about that place and just going through the experience I went through and seeing nature and llamas and I don't know, but I cried like there was something weird about that place that just made me humble, made me appreciate beauty in life,
Interesting.
So I went through that. I went back to Cusco, which happened to be New Year's Eve. Or no, I'm sorry, Christmas Eve. And in Peru, they shoot off fireworks, which got me confused thinking New Year's. At Christmas, they shoot off fireworks. So it was Christmas Eve and fireworks were going all over the city, which was really crazy. I flew back to Miami. And when I drove to Miami, I had my iPod, my playlist, and I listened to all the music on the way down. It's like a 10-hour drive.
Oh yeah.
And
entertain yourself somewhere.
So I put put my playlist back on and drove back up.
Yeah.
Only this time, music made sense. Music made a mathematical sense to me. The arrangements felt like math. I understood the computations.
It's really funny that you say that. Because a lot of musicians compare the their music to mathematics.
Well, and I'm not a musician, but it was definitely, there was something different about music. There was something different about art to this day. To this day, I mean, you can look at my Facebook. You go to my Facebook page and scroll back at my pictures, my photos. You can look at what I post pre-ayahuasca and then look at what I post post-ayahuasca to this day. Which, I mean, it'll be 3 years in December.
Yeah.
Look at my cover photos that I have before ayahuasca and after ayahuasca.
To explain everybody now, as you said, 3 years later, has ayahuasca changed your life completely? From what you were to what you are now?
To talk about experiences, and a lot of people talk about this with childhood, and I don't have children. But a lot of people say there's two events in their life. They're born and then they have children. And having children is the most important event of their life.
Oh, yeah.
For me, born, did ayahuasca. Ayahuasca was an event in my life, maybe the most important event.
Well, let's make it clear you don't have children.
Which is what I, which is what I
trying to make that chill. Yeah.
But prior to ayahuasca, if you look at my Facebook page, you look at my backdrop, it's pictures of my car, it's pictures of my house, it's pictures of me, it's whatever.
Yeah, and you, from my experience of meeting you and seeing your past life and seeing you now, you're a very minimalistic person now.
Now there's artwork, there's pictures, there's sunrises, there's
you don't
water,
live in a $300,000 house. Your house is very minimalist, very. You live for what you need, not for what you want.
And that's ayahuasca.
Yeah.
That's nothing. It's nothing I did consciously, really.
Yeah.
It's
you just have a new way of living.
Well,
you know, a new way of
on life.
Yeah, experiencing life versus.
I hear music different. I'm into music
progress,
more.
Yeah.
I'm definitely more into art. I'm definitely more into nature. I'm definitely more concerned about my diet.
Yeah.
My health. Political stuff bothers me even deeper, than it used to. I seem more aware, more involved, more open. I'm more interested in spirituality. The list goes on and on and on and on, but zero fun about the actual experience. It's the after effect. And even more so, and I wish you would have known me during the little pre-phase or the post-phase, because after you do ayahuasca, a lot of people call it Dharma, and Dharma is that space, that enlightenment thing that people look for through masters try to achieve through Kundalini yoga, the whirling dervishes, the people who stick blades in their skin and hang, the ancient Christians who beat themselves. There's a lot of different, the Native Americans that do the vision quest and fast.
Yeah.
There's this state that is consistent through all those different things that have the same exact result.
Same end game.
The same feeling, and it lasts different for different people in different activities. Yeah. But in essence, I think I experienced it is about, I would say, 2 solid months, maybe 3 months after ayahuasca.
You were experiencing Dharma. I
was different. It changed me permanently. We just talked about that. But specifically that short term, dude, you see me now. I've got a temper. It's believe it or not, it's nowhere as bad as it used to be. But for that 2 or 3 months, you couldn't get me mad.
You didn't have a temper. Anger didn't exist.
I had no road rage. I was peaceful. I laughed. Ask my mom, ask my sister, ask anyone who knows me. For that 2 or 3 months, it was obvious something had happened. I was in a better mood. I slept better.
You were living blissfully.
It was weird. Okay. And the frustrating thing is because I was so in tune and I was so aware, as it started slipping and I started becoming back how I used to be, back normal. Yeah. It hurt me. I got frustrated because I could feel myself. I could feel getting frustrated. It was like, oh crap, now that kind of irks me.
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas before I didn't have that feeling, and what it's like not to have that feeling I mean, you've got control, right? Mm-hmm. So if something pisses you off, you can consciously say, I'm not going to let it piss me off. But really, you still have the feeling.
You're still a little aggravated.
I didn't have that feeling. And I knew I didn't have that feeling, and it felt wonderful. And then when I started getting the feeling again, I still had control over it for a couple months after that. Mm-hmm. You know, so there was probably 3 months of not that feeling, and then another 3 or 4 months of having the feeling but being able to control it. And now I'm pretty much almost back to square one to a certain degree. I have a different outlook on life.
Yeah, you have a different perspective on life.
But I'm still more human. I mean, I still get pissed. I mean, I still have a horrible anger issues and temperament.
Well, you can't expect that thing to last forever.
But the interesting thing is I'm almost ready to try ayahuasca again. One, not to shit myself or throw up or see demons.
Microdose like you did the last time?
No, I mean, do it.
You want to do it.
Yeah. To get that Dharma again. I mean, maybe.
The Dharma is what's addictive then.
Well.
That blissfulness at the end.
The issue is, and the proponents, and this is going to be controversial, but the way I understand it and the way I've heard it explained, that a lot of people have this belief or this idea is it takes years to master yoga or meditation or any spiritual endeavor. Yeah. You know, it takes years to be a good priest, a good rabbi, you know, a good shaman, a good, you know, whatever. And the beauty and difference, and I guess the reason to do psychedelics at a heroic dose. And I'm not talking about taking mushrooms and going seeing your favorite band. I'm talking have a shaman with you, have someone that knows what the hell they're doing, have a trip setter, and take a heroic knock you into the next planet dose to reset your hard drive is what I'm talking about. There's a huge difference, and people who've dabbled in psychedelics will not and cannot understand what I'm saying. And people who have never taken LSD or never taken mushrooms sure as hell won't and can't understand what I'm saying. There's a huge difference between recreational psychedelics
and medicinal.
You know, Timothy Leary, tune in, drop out, take your shirt off, let's go camping. And going to a spiritual location, doing the fasting, not having the sex.
Yeah.
And doing shit ton dose, a medicinal kick you in your dick sack dose.
Interesting way of putting it, but
it's different. And the difference, a lot of people say, is that's a cheat. Mm-hmm. That you get a similar result of doing 1 or 2 or 3 sessions of ayahuasca or ibogaine or heroic dose of LSD or mushrooms. You get a similar result with that it would take you
years
of yoga.
Yeah.
Now, yoga will get you there. You know, Ram Dass and these gurus are getting those same places with a shit ton of work and discipline. Uh-huh. They're able to reach the same locations that I went to and interact with the same entity. They talk about it. They say it.
That's wow.
And they describe the same experiences. It takes them 20, 30 years of meditation and practice to train their mind at it. So the argument is this a hallucination or is it real? My argument, especially to someone who hasn't done it, if you've done it, you're probably going to agree with me. If you haven't, you're going to automatically assume I'm full of shit and I'm hallucinating. Mm. And if you're a scientist, you're going to say, well, the neural pathways are connecting and these neurons are firing, and you're going to try to explain away the wonder and the intensity and the reality of
take the fun out of it. Take the what you're getting.
To me, it was real. To me, I don't give myself enough credit. I don't think I'm that creative to be able to invent that kind of crap.
I don't think you're that creative.
Nor would I want to.
Yeah. Well, on that note, man, I think we should put it to rest today.
Do it, man.
Yeah.
So leave some comments. Again, we did this as a request to get a little bit more in depth. That's been our pretty much highest views of any of our podcasts was that one. So
to the person that left the comment on that video, you're welcome.
We appreciate it. If you have questions, check out our Facebook page. And if you really want to get crazy, you can private message us on Facebook and we can go deeper, answer more questions. Yeah. And then to everyone else, any kind of thing you want us to talk about, that's kind of what we do. And so hook us up, give us some comments and questions.
Yep.
Peace.